What's up in SRC? It's the Russian dude. Florida Panthers, back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. We did it. 2 months of very nerve-wracking cheering are over. The play of beard, as many of you guessed, that's why I have Rasputin type of beard, is gonna be gone in the next couple of days. The haircut, I'm thinking I'm gonna just do a buzz cut and just trim my beard a little bit to have some kind of a Viking look, I guess. I don't know. So yeah, if you don't want to miss it, subscribe. I'll do it in the next couple of days and you will see how I look. Some Viking, I guess, style. But most importantly, Florida Panthers back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. Let's go. Okay, now let's get back to the video. Let's talk about one of the greatest plot twists of modern history. And no, not the fall of the Berlin Wall or Elon Musk tweeting something insane, again, I guess. I'm talking about the ultimate backstab, the deep-covered sabotage of a country by its own president. For 2 decades now, Russia's elite, led by one and only Vladimir Putin, has been shouting about Western agents, CIA plots, color revolutions, and Illuminati-sponsored coups. But what if I told you that the real foreign agent was sitting at the Kremlin this entire time? What if the sinister plans you have seen on conspiracy theory blogs were not total fiction, but a mirror of what is actually happening, just flipped around? You know the saying, every joke has a truth in it. Well, apparently, it also applies to ridiculous statements that even the highest members of a country's elite make from time to time. Just think about the claims, about Nazis in Ukraine's leadership, when Putin's own generals and commanders are literally the perfect reincarnation of the Third Reich rulers. So today, let's talk about the absurd reality where every paranoid hallucination spun by Russian state media accidentally lines up with what Putin himself has been doing, step by step, for 24 years. Let's unpack this ridiculousness, expose the hypocrisy, and tear through the fantasy one chapter at a time, which begins right now. The infamous Dulce plan, you know, that imaginary document every Russian conspiracy theorist brings up the moment they lose an argument and have nothing else to say. So, long story short, it goes something like this. Corrupt the elites, destroy the education system, kill off critical thinking, silence dissent, rig the courts, and turn the media into brainwashing tool. This is what they say the West is doing to Russia. But spoiler alert, and actually I don't even know if it's a spoiler at all. But anyways, every single checkbox is already marked, but by the Russian government itself, not obviously the West. Let's begin and go back to the early 2000s, a shaky and vague democracy. No, obviously not on Putin's watch. First he nukes independent media by hijacking NTV media, then the judiciary turns into the courtroom circus for Kremlin loyalists. What about the elections? Just a relic of the past. Gubernatorial races abolished, opposition barred, fake candidates installed, e-voting introduced, and observers invited with fewer rights than a stray dog in Sochi. Almost forgot those pesky presidential term limits, which can be just adjusted with a simple Sharpie cross. If Putin cannot be president more than 2 times, well, apparently the constitution meant 2 times in a row. Don't want to give up power after serving 4 out of last 5 terms? Well, just rewrite the constitution itself. No biggie, kinda. But that's just the appetizer. Regional autonomy is a myth. The Duma has become an obsolete machine that passes constitutional changes faster than people buy new sets of underwear. Unless the change is about something inconvenient for the regime, then it can apparently take years somehow. And all of it feeds into one glorious goal. A vertical power structure with a terminal disease. Putin at the top. If he is your savior, then Russia does not need enemies. It already has one, on the inside. The propaganda always talks about some kind of spies infiltrating Russia, but conveniently overlooks the one inside Kremlin walls and underground bunkers. This is not even subtle anymore. The deep state Westerners that people whisper about on podcasts and talk shows. It's fully operational in Russia. Run from Kremlin basement with dozens surveillance screens and a giant portrait of Stalin winking above the control panel. That's not even a theory, that's just regular Thursday in Moscow. And it gets even worse when you realize this was not just a matter of control, it was sabotage disguised as governance. By gutting checks and balances, Putin created a system where his own paranoia became national policy. What if you don't trust anyone? Just purge them. Worried about dissent? Pass another censorship law. Think that the West is out to get you? Then go ahead and make a self-fulfilling prophecy. Suddenly, the Russian state stopped working for the people and started working for the survival of one single man, who does not need an introduction. A man who could not tolerate opposition, feedback, or reality itself. So he surrounded himself with people who will maintain the delusional bubble around him according to his own instructions. It is like an insane asylum patient telling doctors how to restrain him even further, so he never leaves the building. Politics is obviously not the only thing that suffered. Then there is also the economy. Let's talk about it in our next chapter. Now let's talk money, or rather how to flush it down a golden toilet in the name of so-called sovereignty. For a country drowning in natural resources and brilliant minds, Russia sure knows how to bankrupt itself like a pro. And no, it's not because of the West, as they claim. It's because every economic strategy over the past 2 decades was designed by someone who thinks that PowerPoint presentations count as real GDP numbers. If it says this, then it should be true. Russia could have built a Silicon Valley in every federal district, but instead they built pipelines to nowhere. Nord Stream, Power of Siberia, Torque Stream, they are less infrastructure and more monument to egos that in the size of tank battalions, so big ones. No one checked if the math even worked. They just assumed that big pipe equals big power and big money. Well, then came the sanctions, kicked off by, you guessed it, the Kremlin's own actions. And now foreign investments are fleeing faster than Wagner commanders near an open window. And what about the science, the education? Well, teachers are paid in leftover borscht and pelmeni. Researchers fill out more paperwork than scientists and NASA combined. Initiative designed to change things is punishable. Rural schools shut down, university curriculums rewritten to include Patriotism 101, and labs turned into loyalty testing centers. And then what happens to the youth then? They grow up cynical, detached, and ready to sell their kidneys on eBay for a chance to leave the country for a better life. And this grand economic theater keeps playing to an empty audience. State-controlled corporations devour budgets like they are all-you-can-eat buffets, while small businesses suffocate under red tape and state interference. The so-called middle class. It's been so shrinked to extinction. And then what about then the rich? Well, they're too busy buying villas in Tuscany while singing patriotic hymns into their imported champagne. Even the remaining industrial sectors are relics of the past. Rusted-out factories from the Brezhnev era keep limping along with duct tape and vodka. The Kremlin does not innovate. It preserves decay, bottles it, and sells it as some kind of stability. Economic diversification, some might ask. That's a Western plot. Who needs chips and tech when you can sell gas to Hungary and call it a strategy? Need more money? Just sell more gas. Nobody wants to buy that much gas? Increase the taxes for the people. And then just simply rinse and repeat. Next thing to destroy on Kremlin's list is the culture and the ethnicity itself, which we will guys talk about in our next chapter. But wait, there is more. We are not done yet, because a broken economy and dead institutions are nothing without a good old-fashioned cultural purge. Enter the next chapter in this absurd saga, the war on art. Dulles allegedly wanted to strip literature of its social meaning. Putin did him one better. He turned all literature into glorified war romance or just banned it altogether. Songs? Too dangerous. Plays? Potentially seductive. Museums? Political minefields. Theater directors are arrested. Comedians are censored. Poets are labeled extremists. And then this punk band, Pussy Riot, you heard about them, right? Once protested in church and, well, ended up in prison. What do you call that? Well, not authoritarianism, apparently. Just so-called traditional values. You either praise the state or you pack your bags. Artists who dare to say anything resembling criticism get the boot or a cell. That's the kind of cultural security you get when the government is more afraid of a YouTube video than an actual physical missile. And yet, Putin's government still has the audacity to cry foul when international film festivals blacklist Russian directors. And I can only wonder why. Maybe because no one wants to watch a 19-minute monologue about how bombing Kiev is a holy duty, while ballet dancers salute at a portrait of Ivan the Terrible. Absurd. The goal is simple. Remove any hint of social reflection, drown the nation in nostalgia, and replace critical thinking with the Second World War cosplay. They do not want artists, they want cheerleaders in camouflage. And meanwhile, patriotic indoctrination begins in kindergarten. Kids are taught to think about tanks before they can even spell their own names. History books read like Marvel comics, except every villain wears a NATO uniform. And well, what about dissenting teachers? Either they keep their mouth shut, or keep finding new careers as, Uber drivers. This is not just about art, it's about thought control. Because when people stop imagining, they stop questioning. And when they stop questioning, they become perfect little cogs in a very broken machine. And now, we come to the grand finale. The crown jewel of every failed empire. The war. If the conspiracy theorists were right about one thing, it's this. Nothing breaks a society faster than throwing its youth into a meat grinder. And Putin delivered. The Ukrainian war did not just start in 2022, it was only officially started. It started actually years earlier with elections meddling, puppet regimes, and staged referendums. Something what we see at the very early stages in some Baltic countries, by the way. And when that did not go as planned, Russia invaded. Without strategy, without logic, without a shred of human dignity. This was not just a regular war. This was the ritual sacrifice. Young men herded like cattle, ammunition dumped on them like birdseed, zero strategy, zero leadership, just bodies and numbers. Even pro-Kremlin bloggers started calling it attrition, like they were describing as some kind of bread printer, not a generation being obliterated. The point was not victory, it was chaos. Bleed the country dry, made it ungovernable, destroy its future, and for what? A few thousand kilometers of rubble. It was not even about Ukraine anymore. It was about dragging everyone into hell, so that no one could leave the burning building without smelling like smoke. And that's how you depopulate a country without raising suspicion. No need for forced sterilization or death camps, nothing like this. Just an endless pointless war and a collapsing healthcare system. Let cancer, alcohol, smoking habits and drone shrapnel do the rest. Rosstat did not lie. The birth rate is down, the death rate is up, and the future looks like a ghost town with a flag on top. If Margaret Thatcher really did say Russia only needs 15 million people to run its pipelines, then well, congratulations. Somebody is making that happen, somebody is making that a reality. Whether it's a deliberate or just staggering incompetence does not even matter anymore. Meanwhile, Zelensky made it crystal clear. Putin can only win if the war drags on forever and the West walks away. And let's be honest, that is the plan of Putin. A long, bloody, frozen conflict that never ends. Not because there is something to gain, but because it justifies the regime's existence. War is no longer a means, it is the product, it is the brand, it is the symbol of Putin's Russia. Well, there you have it. If you haven't done so already, please guys subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. Let's go Florida Panthers, back-to-back Stanley Cup champions. Thank you guys so much for cheering with me for the last 2 months. It's been incredible. I'm just, that is legendary. If you wish to support my work, the links down below. Thanks so much for watching. See you tomorrow.